I always believed family was the one place you'd never be betrayed. But when my parents said, "We can't afford our vacation this year, let's skip it," I trusted them. I even offered to help. What I didn't know was that my trust was their easiest target. And the lesson I learned when I uncovered the truth cost them far more than any luxury cruise ever could. My name is Elena Turner, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a financial planner in Boston, where I've built a career helping people manage their money wisely. Ironic, considering what my own family did with mine. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Back when I still believed in the sacred bonds of family and the traditions that held us together. Growing up in the Turner household meant summers filled with adventure, even if those adventures were modest. My parents, Paul and Diane Turner, both worked as teachers for most of my childhood. Dad taught high school history while Mom handled third grade at the local elementary school. During summers, they ran a small souvenir shop near the coast to supplement their income. Money was always tight. But somehow, they made our annual family vacation happen without fail. "Family trips are sacred," Mom would say, usually while packing sandwiches into a cooler that had seen better days. "These are the memories that matter, not the fancy hotels or expensive restaurants." And she was right. Some of my fondest childhood memories come from those simple vacations. There was the summer we spent camping in Maine, where my older sister Rebecca taught me how to build a proper campfire. I was 7, she was 12, and she seemed to know everything about everything. Our younger siblings, Ethan and Emily, were still toddlers then, more interested in eating dirt than exploring nature trails. Then there were the weeks spent in rented cabins by various lakes throughout New England. Dad would wake us up before dawn to go fishing, promising that this time we'd catch enough for dinner. We never did. But Mom always had backup plans involving the local grocery store. Rebecca and I would spend afternoons teaching Ethan and Emily to swim, their little arms flailing in the shallow water while we held them up, promising we wouldn't let go. The road trips along the eastern seaboard were legendary in their chaos. 4 kids crammed into a minivan, playing endless games of I Spy and 20 questions. Dad would threaten to turn the car around at least 3 times per trip, though he never did. Mom would distribute snacks like a UN peacekeeping force, trying to maintain order in the backseat battleground. As we grew older and started earning our own money, the vacations evolved. Rebecca became a nurse, married her college sweetheart, Mark, and had 2 kids of her own. Ethan followed his passion for graphic design. Though his freelance career meant irregular income, Emily, the baby of the family, was still finishing her master's in education, following in our parents' footsteps. And me? Well, I surprised everyone by having a knack for numbers and investments. After graduating from Boston University with a degree in finance, I landed a job at a prestigious firm downtown. Within 5 years, I'd built a solid client base and was earning more than both my parents combined. It felt good to be successful, but more importantly, it felt good to give back to the family that had given me so much. When the vacation fund became a shared responsibility, I naturally contributed the most. It started small, maybe covering the rental car or picking up a few restaurant tabs. But as my income grew and my siblings struggled with student loans and starting families, my contribution increased to about 40% of the total cost. I didn't mind. These were the people who had shaped me, supported me, and loved me unconditionally. What good was money if you couldn't use it to create memories with the people who mattered most? The vacations themselves transformed from camping trips to resort stays. Instead of cramped cabins, we rented spacious villas with ocean views. The minivan road trips gave way to flights to tropical destinations. Dad no longer had to pretend we'd catch our dinner. We dined at restaurants with actual dress codes. Mom still packed snacks, though now they were artisanal cheeses and organic fruit instead of crackers and juice boxes. Rebecca's kids, Nathan and Sophia, now experienced the kind of vacations we'd only dreamed about as children. They learned to snorkel in crystal-clear Caribbean waters instead of murky lakes. They built sand castles on pristine beaches rather than rocky New England shores. And I loved being the aunt who helped make it possible. who could slip them extra money for the arcade or souvenir shop without their parents knowing. These upgraded vacations weren't about showing off or living beyond our means. They were about creating new memories while honoring old traditions. We still played the same road trip games at the airport. Dad still threatened to turn the plane around, which always got a laugh. Mom still distributed snacks, though now they came from duty-free shops. The core of who we were as a family remained unchanged, just wrapped in slightly fancier packaging. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way Rebecca's eyes would narrow slightly when I picked up another check. How Ethan would make jokes about Aunt Moneybags that had a sharp edge beneath the humor. Emily's comments about how nice it must be to afford designer luggage for trips. Even my parents, who had always preached gratitude and humility, began to expect rather than appreciate my contributions. But at the time, I brushed off these moments. Families tease each other. Siblings have always been competitive. And hadn't my parents earned the right to enjoy their retirement years after decades of scrimping and saving? I told myself I was being too sensitive, that success naturally created some distance, but love would bridge any gap money might create. The planning for our annual vacation typically began in January. We'd create a group chat, toss around destination ideas, and slowly narrow down our choices based on everyone's schedules and preferences. It was chaotic, but democratic, with everyone getting a vote and plenty of good-natured arguing about beaches versus mountains, relaxation versus adventure. This past January started the same way. Rebecca kicked off the group chat with photos of previous trips, asking where we should create new memories this year. The suggestions flew fast and furious. Ethan wanted to try surfing in Costa Rica. Emily dreamed of the Amalfi Coast. Mom had been dropping hints about a river cruise through Europe, while Dad seemed content with anywhere that had a golf course and a pool. I threw out a few ideas of my own, conscious as always of keeping the options within a reasonable budget. Despite earning the most, I never wanted my family to feel like I was flaunting my success or pushing for extravagant options they couldn't afford. I suggested the Caribbean again, knowing we could find a range of resorts to fit different budgets. Or maybe finally doing that trip to the Florida Keys we'd been talking about for years. The discussion continued for weeks, with everyone sharing links to hotels, creating Pinterest boards of activities, and debating the merits of all-inclusive versus a la carte pricing. It was one of my favorite parts of the year, this collaborative dreaming and planning. Even when we disagreed, it was with love and laughter, knowing that wherever we ended up, we'd be together. Then came the message that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening in early February. I'd just finished a long day of client meetings and was settling in with a glass of wine and leftover Chinese takeout when my phone buzzed with a notification from our family group chat. The sender was Dad, which was unusual. He typically let Mom handle the digital communications, claiming that autocorrect was out to get him. Kids, your mother and I have been looking at our finances, and we need to be honest with you. Things are tighter than we've let on. Between some unexpected home repairs and medical bills, we simply can't afford a vacation this year. We think it's best if we skip it and focus on being responsible. We hope you understand. I read the message 3 times, my wine glass suspended halfway to my lips. Skip our vacation in 29 years. We'd never skipped our family vacation. Not during the recession when Dad's teaching hours were cut. Not when Mom needed surgery and was out of work for 2 months. Not even the year Emily was born premature and spent weeks in the NICU, racking up medical bills that took years to pay off. My immediate instinct was to solve the problem. That's what I did for a living, after all. I helped people navigate financial challenges and find solutions. Surely I could do the same for my own family. Dad, if money's the issue, I'm happy to cover more this year. I typed quickly. We don't have to skip it. Maybe we just scale back a bit. We could do something local, keep costs down. The important thing is being together. Right. Mom's response came almost immediately. Sweetheart, that's generous of you, but we couldn't ask that. You already do too much. Besides, your father and I have discussed it. And we think it's important to set an example about living within our means. Sometimes being an adult means making tough choices. The phrase struck me as odd. Set an example for whom we were all adults now, even Emily at 24. And hadn't they always lived within their means, including finding creative ways to maintain our vacation tradition even during tough times? What surprised me more was how quickly my siblings agreed. Usually, any suggestion of changing vacation plans resulted in lengthy debates and negotiations. But this time, their responses were swift and uniform. Probably for the best. Rebecca wrote, "Mark and I have been looking at our own budget anyway." "Yeah, I get it." Ethan added, "Freelance has been slow. Could use a year to catch up." Emily's response was the shortest. "If that's what needs to happen, I understand." I stared at my phone, feeling like I'd entered an alternate universe. Where was the negotiation? The brainstorming of alternatives, the offers to chip in or find creative solutions. This was the same family that once drove 16 hours straight to avoid paying for a hotel, just to make sure we could afford a week at the beach. Now they were giving up without a fight. "Are you all sure?" I typed. "I really don't mind covering more. We could even just do a long weekend somewhere close, Boston to Cape Cod, or maybe Vermont. It doesn't have to be expensive." "Elena, drop it." Rebecca's message appeared. "Not everything can be fixed by throwing money at it. Mom and Dad made their decision. Respect it." The sharpness of her response stung. I wasn't trying to throw money at anything. I was trying to preserve a tradition that had defined our family for decades. But the finality in her tone, echoed by the sudden silence in the group chat, made it clear the discussion was over. I finished my wine and Chinese food without tasting either, my mind churning with questions. The whole exchange felt wrong, like a play where everyone knew their lines except me. But what could I do? Push harder and risk being seen as the entitled rich sister who couldn't take no for an answer? Question my parents' financial situation and imply they were lying? So I did what I always did when faced with family dynamics. I didn't understand. I buried myself in work and told myself everything would make sense eventually. The next few weeks passed in a blur of client meetings, portfolio reviews, and market analysis. I threw myself into a particularly complex case involving a small business owner trying to set up retirement plans for her employees, grateful for the distraction from the nagging feeling that something was off with my family. Still, I couldn't completely ignore the signs that began appearing like breadcrumbs in a fairy tale, leading me toward a truth I didn't yet want to see. It started with Rebecca's Instagram. My sister had never been particularly active on social media, usually just posting the occasional photo of her kids or a motivational nursing quote. But in late February, she suddenly uploaded a picture of a gleaming new hard-shell suitcase with the caption, "Sometimes you just have to treat yourself. Retail therapy. Worth it." The suitcase was a premium brand, the kind that cost more than most people's entire vacation wardrobes. I knew because I owned one myself. A splurge from my first big bonus that I justified by calculating the cost per use over years of travel. It seemed odd that Rebecca would buy such expensive luggage when she'd just agreed that money was too tight for a family vacation. I almost commented something light like, "Nice, where are you planning to take it?" But something held me back. Instead, I simply liked the photo and kept scrolling. A week later, Emily posted a series of Instagram stories from a high-end department store. She was trying on swimsuits, designer cover-ups, and resort wear that definitely didn't fit a graduate student budget. Getting ready for summer, she captioned one video, twirling in a sundress that I recognized from a boutique downtown where nothing cost less than $300. "Cute dress," I texted her privately. "Special occasion." Her response came hours later. "Oh, just dreaming window shopping is free, right?" But in one of the videos, I'd caught a glimpse of a shopping bag in her hand, the distinctive purple of the store's packaging clearly visible. Window shopping didn't usually involve purchases. Ethan, meanwhile, had gone suspiciously quiet on all social media platforms. My brother was typically an oversharer, documenting everything from his morning coffee to his latest design projects. But throughout late February and early March, his accounts went nearly dark. The few posts he did make were reposts of other people's content or vague motivational quotes about big things coming and patience paying off. When he did finally post something original, it was a photo of new swimming trunks laid out on his bed, accompanied by a pair of high-end water shoes and designer sunglasses. Summer essentials, he captioned it with a sun emoji. Planning some beach time, I commented, trying to keep my tone casual. Just local stuff, he replied. Maybe some day trips to the Cape. Day trips to the Cape didn't require water shoes designed for coral reefs and rocky shores. Those were the kind you bought for tropical destinations where the beaches were beautiful but potentially hazardous to bare feet. I knew because I'd bought similar ones for our trip to the Bahamas 2 years ago. The most telling moment came during a video call with Mom in mid-March. She'd wanted to show me the new curtains she'd made for the guest room, holding her laptop up to give me a better view. As she panned the camera around, I caught sight of something that made my heart skip a beach bag. Clearly new with tags still attached, sitting on the bed. Not just any beach bag, but a designer one from a brand I recognized, the kind sold at resort boutiques for ridiculous prices. Mom, is that a new beach bag? I asked, trying to sound conversational. She whipped the laptop back toward her face so fast I thought she might drop it. What? Oh, that old thing. No, just something I've had forever. You know me, I never throw anything away. But I'd seen the tags. And I knew that particular brand had only launched their beach collection this year because I'd received their catalog just last month. There was no way it was old. Are you sure you and Dad don't want to reconsider the vacation? I pressed gently. Even just a small trip, I really don't mind helping out more with the costs. Elena Rose Turner, she said, using my full name the way she had when I was in trouble as a child. When your father and I make a decision, we expect our children to respect it. We're not taking a vacation this year, and that's final. Now, did I show you the pillows I made to match the curtains? I let her change the subject, but the seeds of suspicion had been firmly planted. My family was acting strange, buying vacation items while claiming they couldn't afford a vacation, and shutting down any attempts to discuss alternatives. Something was definitely going on. The breaking point came when I ran into my colleague Sarah at a coffee shop near our office. Sarah's daughter went to school with one of Ethan's friend's kids, creating one of those convoluted Boston connections that made the city feel smaller than it was. Oh, I meant to tell you, Sarah said as we waited for our lattes. I saw your brother at that fancy outdoor gear store in Cambridge last weekend. Small world, right? Yeah, he's really into that stuff, I said carefully. Was he looking at anything in particular? Sarah laughed. Looking he was buying had one of those waterproof backpacks, the really expensive kind. Jackson was so jealous. He's been begging for one for his Boy Scout trips, but they're way out of our budget. Your brother said something about a surprise trip. I figured maybe you guys were planning some kind of adventure vacation for your parents or something. My stomach clenched, but I kept my expression neutral. Oh, you know Ethan, always planning something. Must be nice to have a successful sister who can help out with those kinds of surprises. Sarah continued, oblivious to my growing unease. He mentioned you were organizing some big family thing. You're such a good daughter, Elena. I can barely get my kids to return my texts, let alone plan elaborate trips. I managed to maintain small talk until our drinks were ready, but my mind was racing. Ethan was buying expensive gear for a surprise trip that I was supposedly organizing. What the hell was going on? That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into our shared family calendar to check everyone's schedules. We'd created it years ago to coordinate visits and avoid double booking holidays, though only Mom and I regularly updated it. Most of the summer looked normal: work schedules, Emily's graduate classes, Nathan's baseball games. But there was something odd about the last week of June. Everyone except me had blocked it off with busy, do not schedule. Even my parents, who usually annotated everything with specific details, had simply marked the days as unavailable. The week they'd blocked off was exactly when we would have taken our family vacation. I stared at the calendar, a sick feeling growing in my stomach. They couldn't. Could they really be planning a family vacation without me? No, I told myself. There had to be another explanation. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. My 30th birthday was coming up in a few months. Perhaps this was all an elaborate ruse for a surprise party or special trip. But even as I tried to rationalize it, the pieces didn't fit. The secretive behavior, the vacation purchases, the synchronized story about skipping this year's trip, the mysteriously blocked calendar week, it all pointed to one conclusion I didn't want to accept. Still, I needed proof before I could confront anyone. Accusations based on suspicion would only make me look paranoid and potentially damage relationships that, despite recent oddness, I still valued. So I waited, watched, and tried to ignore the growing knot in my stomach that told me something was very, very wrong. The universe has a funny way of revealing truth when you're not looking for it. I'd spent weeks carefully observing my family's behavior, analyzing their social media posts, and parsing their words for hidden meanings. But in the end, the revelation came through the most mundane of circumstances, a notification on my phone while I was in the middle of a massage. It was a Saturday afternoon in early April, and I'd booked a spa day for myself, trying to relieve the tension that had been building since that first suspicious message about canceling our vacation. I'd left my phone in my locker, set to silent except for emergency calls and fraud alerts from my credit card companies, a necessity in my line of work where I often made large purchases for clients and needed to verify them quickly. I was face down on the massage table, finally starting to relax as the masseuse worked on a particularly stubborn knot in my shoulder, when I heard the distinctive ping of a fraud alert. Then another. And another. Within 30 seconds, my phone had pinged at least a dozen times. "I'm so sorry," I said, lifting my head. "That's my emergency alert. I need to check it." The masseuse, accustomed to Type A, Boston professionals who couldn't fully disconnect, nodded understandingly. "Take your time. I'll step out for a moment." I wrapped myself in the provided robe and padded to my locker, my relaxation evaporating with each step. That many alerts meant either a serious security breach or someone was making significant purchases on my accounts. Neither option was good. When I unlocked my phone, the screen was filled with notifications from American Express, all transaction alert from my primary credit card. My hands shook slightly as I opened the first one. Transaction alert $3.817 at Island Wings Charter Service. The next transaction alert $8,500 at Coral Dreams Villa Rentals. Then, transaction alert 2100 at 5-Star Catering Bahamas. Transaction alert 17755 at Paradise Spa and Wellness. Transaction alert $4.200 at Yacht Week Bahamas. The alerts kept coming. Charter flights, luxury accommodations, private chef services, spa packages, boat rentals. Each transaction was for services in the Bahamas. All dated for the last week of June, the exact week my family had blocked off as busy on the calendar. But how were they using my card I hadn't given anyone authorization to? And then I remembered the Turner family wallet. 2 years ago, I'd created a digital wallet system to make splitting vacation costs easier. Instead of everyone trying to pay separate shares or keeping track of who owed what, I'd set up a shared payment system linked to my primary credit card. Family members could add their cards as payment methods, and I would charge them their portions after the trip. It had seemed like an elegant solution at the time, eliminating the awkwardness of money discussions during what should be relaxing vacations. I'd given all my immediate family members access to the wallet for emergencies and pre-approved vacation expenses. The understanding was that any charges would be discussed in advance, and I'd never had reason to doubt that trust until now. With trembling fingers, I navigated to the wallet app. The transaction history made my blood run cold. Every alert I'd received corresponded to a purchase made through the family wallet. But when I checked the authorized users for these transactions, that's when the real betrayal hit. Every single purchase showed the same note. Approved for Turner Family Vacation 2024. Elena excluded. Elena excluded. They'd actually typed that into the system. As if excluding me wasn't enough. They had to document it. Make it official in the very payment system I'd created to bring us together. I sank down onto the spa's plush waiting room couch, still in my robe, staring at my phone as more pieces fell into place. I pulled up the reservation confirmations that had been helpfully emailed to me as the account holder. The villa booking showed 6 adults and 2 children. The charter flight manifest listed Paul Turner, Diane Turner, Rebecca Turner Collins, Mark Collins, Nathan Collins, Sophia Collins, Ethan Turner, and Emily Turner. Every member of my immediate family, every significant other, even Rebecca's kids, everyone except me. But it got worse. As I scrolled through the charter flight details, I noticed additional names: Jennifer and Robert Hayes, my parents' best friends from their teaching days; Linda Turner, my father's sister who lived in Florida; even Marcus Bennett, Ethan's best friend who'd joined a few of our vacations over the years. They hadn't just excluded me from a family vacation. They'd invited extended family and friends to take my place, all while using my credit card to pay for it. The spa manager found me 20 minutes later, still sitting in the same spot. Phone clutched in my hand. "Miss Turner, is everything all right? Should we reschedule your appointment?" "Yes," I heard myself say, though my voice sounded distant and strange. "I need to go. There's been a family emergency." It wasn't a lie. This was an emergency, just not the kind she probably imagined. I drove home on autopilot, my mind struggling to process the magnitude of what I'd discovered. $30,000. They'd charged over $30,000 to my credit card for a luxury vacation that deliberately excluded me. The girl who'd contributed 40% of every vacation for the past 5 years. The daughter who'd offered to pay even more when they claimed poverty. The sister who'd never said no to any financial request, from emergency car repairs to loans that were never repaid. By the time I reached my apartment, shock had crystallized into rage. How dare they? How fucking dare they? But beneath the anger was a pain so profound it took my breath away. This wasn't just about money. Money I had, money could be replaced. This was about trust, about love, about being deemed so worthless to my own family that they'd plan an elaborate lie rather than spend a week in my presence. What had I done to deserve this? I mentally cataloged every interaction from the past year, searching for the moment when I'd become persona non grata in my own family. Had I been too generous, making them resent me? Not generous enough, too successful, too single, too something that made me unworthy of inclusion in the very tradition I'd helped maintain. The cruelest part was the premeditation. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision or an oversight. They'd planned this for months. Every sympathetic nod when I offered to help with vacation costs. Every reassurance that they understood the financial situation. Every moment they'd watched me worry about them while they were actively plotting to use my money to fund their escape from me. I thought about calling them immediately, confronting them with what I'd found. But something held me back. Maybe it was the financial planner in me, trained to think strategically rather than emotionally. Or maybe it was the small, vindictive part of me that wanted them to feel even a fraction of the shock I was experiencing. Instead, I did what I did best. I planned. First, I called American Express. The customer service representative was sympathetic when I explained that unauthorized charges had been made on my account. "I see multiple transactions here," she said, her fingers clicking across a keyboard. "Do you want to dispute all of them?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Every transaction from the Turner family wallet in the last 48 hours, and I need you to freeze that payment method immediately." Of course. I've suspended the digital wallet and flagged all associated transactions as fraudulent. The merchants will be notified within 24 to 48 hours that the payments are being reversed. Is there anything else I can help you with? Yes, I need a new card number, expedited shipping, and I want to remove all authorized users from my account. I can help with that. For security purposes, can you verify? I went through the verification process. Each question a reminder of how much of my financial life I'd intertwined with my family. My mother was listed as an emergency contact. My address history included my parents' home. My security questions referenced family memories that now felt tainted. All right, Miss Turner, your new card will arrive Monday via FedEx. All authorized users have been removed, and the disputed charges will be reversed. The merchants may contact you directly once they're notified. That's fine, I said, a grim smile playing at my lips. They'd certainly be contacting someone, just not me. Next, I went through every financial connection I had with my family. The family wallet was just the beginning. I was listed as a guarantor on Emily's apartment lease. My parents had access to one of my savings accounts from when I was younger and had never removed them. I paid for family subscriptions to various streaming services. Ethan was on my phone plan because it was cheaper to have a family rate. One by one, I severed these connections. Emily's landlord couldn't remove me as guarantor mid-lease, but I made a note to handle that when renewal came up. The bank accounts were easier, a few clicks, and my parents no longer had access. Streaming services were cut off effective immediately. The phone plan would take until the next billing cycle, but I initiated the separation. It was surgical, methodical, and absolutely necessary. If my family could steal $30,000 from me while looking me in the eye and claiming poverty, what else were they capable of? As I worked, I discovered more evidence of their betrayal. Email confirmations I'd overlooked before because they'd gone to a folder I rarely checked. The villa rental company had sent a welcome packet detailing all the amenities: private beach access, personal chef service, daily housekeeping, a stocked bar. The yacht rental included a captain and crew, island hopping itinerary, and gourmet meals. This wasn't just a vacation, it was a luxury experience that exceeded anything we'd done as a family before. And they'd planned it all while telling me we needed to be responsible and live within our means. The hypocrisy burned like acid in my throat. By Sunday evening, I'd protected my assets and removed my family's access to my finances. But I wasn't done. There was still the matter of their flights departing in 2 weeks and their accommodation expecting payment upon arrival. Since I'd disputed the charges, their reservations would be in jeopardy. But they wouldn't know that until they tried to check in. Part of me wanted to warn them, to scream and rage and demand explanations. But a larger part, a part I didn't know existed until this betrayal, wanted them to experience the same shock I'd felt. Let them arrive at the airport with their fancy luggage and beachwear only to discover their tickets were invalid. Let them show up at their luxury villa to find their reservation canceled. I spent the next week going through the motions of normal life. Work provided a welcome distraction, and I threw myself into my clients' portfolios with renewed vigor. If I couldn't trust my own family, at least I could help protect other people's financial futures. The family group chat remained ominously quiet. A few scattered messages about mundane things. Mom sharing a recipe. Rebecca asking if anyone had seen Nathan's baseball glove. Ethan sending a meme that wasn't particularly funny. No one mentioned the vacation they were supposedly not taking. I responded when directly addressed, keeping my answers short and neutral. Inside, I was counting down the days until their departure, wondering if anyone would crack and confess. But the week crawled by with no revelations, no guilty admissions, no last-minute invitations. On Thursday, 3 days before their scheduled departure, I finally got a direct message from Emily. "Hey, can I borrow that white sundress of yours? The one with the embroidered hem. I have a thing this weekend." A thing. My baby sister, who I'd taught to tie her shoes and ride a bike. Couldn't even be honest about borrowing clothes for the vacation they were taking with my money. "Sure," I replied. "It's in my closet. You still have the spare key." "You're the best love you are." Love? The word felt like a mockery now. Friday afternoon. I left work early and did something I'd never done before. I parked across from my parents' house and waited. Sure enough, around 4 p.m. Cars started arriving. Rebecca's SUV pulled up first, loaded with luggage and beach gear visible through the windows. Ethan arrived next in an Uber, dragging 2 large suitcases. Emily's boyfriend dropped her off with bags that definitely contained more than weekend trip essentials. I watched my family gather for their secret vacation, laughing and hugging on the front lawn. Dad loaded suitcases into his car with the efficiency of someone who'd done this many times before. Mom fluttered around making sure everyone had everything they needed. My siblings chatted excitedly. the tension and fake poverty of the past months seemingly forgotten. Not one of them looked guilty. Not one of them hesitated or glanced around nervously. They were a family preparing for a wonderful adventure, united in their excitement and apparently unbothered by the absence of one family member. I drove away before they could spot me, tears finally breaking through the anger I'd been using as a shield. This was really happening. My family had conspired to exclude me, stolen from me, and felt no remorse about any of it. Saturday morning, the day of their departure. I woke up to an unusual sound, my phone ringing before 7 a.m. The caller ID showed Mom's number. Hello, I answered, keeping my voice neutral despite my racing heart. Elena, thank God you answered. Mom's voice was high-pitched, panicked. We have an emergency. What's wrong? I asked, though I knew exactly what was wrong. We're at the airport and they're saying our tickets aren't valid. The credit card was declined or something. Can you call the airline? You're so good with these things. The customer service line is an hour wait and we'll miss our flight. I let silence stretch between us, long enough that she started talking again, her words tumbling over each other. It must be some kind of mistake. Paul booked everything properly. We double-checked. But now they're saying the payment was reversed. That doesn't make sense. Can you fix this, sweetheart? You know how these things work. What flight? I asked calmly. Where are you trying to go? The pause was deafening. I could practically hear her realizing that she'd just exposed their lie. She stammered. Because I was under the impression that the family vacation was canceled this year. I continued, my voice still deadly calm. Due to financial constraints, remember? Elena, I can explain. Can you explain why you told me you couldn't afford a vacation while charging $30,000 to my credit card? Can you explain why you typed Elena excluded into the payment system? Can you explain why my entire family conspired to lie to me for months? It's not what you think. Mom's voice cracked. You always make everything about money every vacation. You have to show off how much you can pay for. We wanted one trip where we didn't feel like charity cases. The accusation was so shocking, so revisionist, that I actually laughed. Charity cases, I never once made you feel that way. I contributed because I love you and wanted us to have nice experiences together. But clearly, those experiences are better without me. That's not true, we just needed my credit card but not my presence. I interrupted. Don't worry. Mom, I fixed the mistake. I reported the fraudulent charges, just like any responsible person would do when they discover someone has stolen from them, even if that someone is family. Especially if that someone is family. I heard muffled voices in the background, my siblings realizing their luxury vacation was crumbling around them. Elena, please. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. Everyone's here. The Hayes, your Aunt Linda. We can't be humiliated like this. Just fix the payment and we'll discuss this when we get back. We'll pay you back, I promise. Like Emily paid back her student loans. Like Ethan paid back the emergency money for his computer. Like you and Dad paid back the home repair loan. I listed each broken promise, each conveniently forgotten debt. No. Mom. The only thing broken here is trust, and I can't fix that with a phone call. You're really going to strand us at the airport? Her tone shifted from pleading to accusatory. Your own family. I'm not stranding anyone. You're free to book new tickets with your own credit cards. You know, the ones that weren't too tight to afford a vacation, just too tight to include me. We can't afford, she started, then stopped, realizing she was admitting to the lie. Then I guess you'll be having a staycation after all. I said. Just like I will be. Though mine will be a lot less stressful, not having to pretend I'm too poor to take a trip while secretly planning one behind someone's back. Rebecca's voice suddenly came through the phone, sharp and angry. Are you seriously doing this? God, Eleni, this is why we didn't include you. You make everything a transaction. Everything has a price with you. We just wanted one vacation where you weren't lording your success over us. When have I ever lorded anything over anyone? I shot back. When have I been anything but generous and supportive? Every time you pick up a check, every time you offer to pay more, every time you make us feel like we can't provide for our own families. Rebecca was shouting now. Do you know how it feels to have your little sister pay for your kid's vacation, to watch you throw money around like it's nothing while the rest of us struggle? So your solution was to steal from me? It's not stealing, we were going to tell you. Eventually. After. When you couldn't ruin it with your guilt trips and obligations. Guilt trips. I was genuinely baffled. What guilt trips? I've never asked for anything in return. Never held it over your heads. Never even mentioned it outside of planning discussions. You don't have to mention it, Rebecca spat. It's there every time you pull out your designer wallet, every time you casually mention your bonus or your portfolio, every time you act like money is so easy when the rest of us are drowning. So you decided to drown me in deception instead. Ethan's voice joined the fray. Look, Elena, we didn't mean for it to go this far. It was just supposed to be a simple trip. We figured you'd never even notice the charges. You've got so much money. I notice when $30,000 goes missing. Ethan, that's not pocket change, even for me. 30,000, I heard him whisper to someone. Jesus, how did it get to 30,000? Private jets, luxury villas, and yachts add up, I said dryly. But don't worry, you won't have to pay it back. Consider it my final contribution to the Turner Family Vacation Fund. And I do mean final. Elena, don't be dramatic. Dad's voice came through, stern and disappointed. We're family. We work through things. Families don't steal from each other. Dad, families don't conspire and lie and explicitly exclude members while using their resources. What you all did? That's what criminals do. Be grateful I'm only canceling the charges and not pressing actual charges. You wouldn't dare, Mom gasped. Try me, I said quietly. I have every receipt, every email confirmation, every transaction record. The note saying Elena excluded would look particularly damning in court, don't you think? The silence stretched on, and I could picture them all standing in the airport, designer luggage at their feet, beachwear mocking them with its uselessness, dreams of luxury crumbling into the harsh reality of consequences. Now what are we supposed to do? Emily's voice was small, almost tearful. Whatever you want, I said. Just don't expect me to fund it, or anything else, ever again. Elena, Mom started. I need you all to understand something. I interrupted, my voice firm but tired. This isn't about the money. I would have happily paid for a dozen vacations if you'd just been honest with me. If you'd said, Elena, we need some family time without you. It would have hurt, but I would have respected it. Instead, you turned me into a mark, a target, a wallet to be emptied. You planned and schemed and lied to my face for months. That's not something I can forgive with a credit card payment. So that's it, Rebecca demanded. You're just cutting us off, your own family. You cut me off first, I reminded her. I'm just making it official and mutual. What about Mom and Dad? Emily asked. They're on a fixed income. What if they need help? Then they should have thought about that before stealing from their daughter. I said, actions have consequences. It's a lesson they taught me growing up. Glad to see it finally stuck. I heard arguing in the background, voices raising as the reality of their situation sank in. Stranded at the airport with no vacation. Extended family and friends witnessing their humiliation. And the gravy train officially derailed. I have to go, I said finally. Enjoy your staycation. Maybe use the time to reflect on why you thought deceiving and stealing from a family member was acceptable. Or don't. It's no longer my concern. Elena, wait, Mom called out, but I hung up. My hands were shaking as I set the phone down. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. For a moment, the loss threatened to overwhelm me. Not the money, that was just numbers on a screen. But the family I thought I had, the relationships I'd cherished, the traditions I'd helped maintain. All of it was gone, revealed to be as false as their claims of poverty. I spent the rest of the morning cleaning, organizing, anything to keep my hands busy while my mind processed the devastation. Around noon, the texts started rolling in. From Rebecca, I hope you're happy. The kids are crying. From Ethan, real mature, Elena. Thanks for ruining everyone's summer. From Emily, I can't believe you'd be this petty over money when you have so much. From Dad, disappointed in you. Only Mom sent nothing, which somehow hurt more than the accusations and guilt trips. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say they'd stolen from me, lied to me, excluded me? And somehow I was the villain for not enabling their deception. The mental gymnastics required to reach that conclusion were beyond my comprehension. By evening, I'd blocked them all. Not forever, I told myself. Just until I could think about them without feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Just until the betrayal didn't burn quite so bright. A week later, I received a certified letter from my parents. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note in Mom's handwriting. This is all we can afford right now. We'll pay the rest when we can. Despite what you think, we never meant to hurt you. We just wanted one vacation where money didn't matter, where we could be equals, where you couldn't fix everything with your checkbook. I'm sorry it came to this. Love, Mom. I stared at the check, torn between laughing and crying. Even now, even after everything, they didn't get it. It had never been about the money. It had been about being included, being valued, being part of the family traditions that had shaped who I was. I never cashed the check. Instead, I framed it and hung it in my home office as a reminder, not of betrayal or anger, but of a simple truth I'd learned the hard way. Sometimes the most expensive lessons come from the people who were supposed to love you for free. The Turner family vacations were officially over. Not because of financial constraints or scheduling conflicts or any of the other lies we tell to soften hard truths. They ended because somewhere along the way, my family decided I was worth more as a bank account than as a daughter, a sister, a person. They kept the money I'd spent over the years on family memories. I kept my self-respect and the hard-won knowledge that some prices are too high to pay, even for family, especially for family. As I looked at that framed check, I realized I'd gotten the better deal. Money can be replaced. Trust, once shattered into 30,000 pieces, is infinitely more expensive to rebuild. And some debts, I'd learned, are better left unpaid.